Hello, Din Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today being Super Tuesday, the day before you're seeing this. Super Tuesday, and some new information that I think gives the Trump campaign something to potentially be concerned about. Not including the stock market, which has gone down. Trump's ratings, approval rating among likely voters, that has gone down. There is a lot of time between now and November, but I'm here to call them as I see them, and I'm also here to provide some insights that other people are not mentioning. So here we go with some changes in the odds of Biden being the nominee and therefore being the president. There have been some changes since the South Carolina primary where Biden, well, he was expected to win, but he exceeded expectations, won by a much larger margin than expected. You also have, as you had before that primary, the press standing behind Biden, doing anything they can to stop Sanders. So that's giving Biden a boost. All these stories about, well, they're not using the term, but your basic comeback kid stories. That's one angle. Then you have Buttigieg and Klobuchar dropped out and endorse Sanders. A lot of these votes are expected. Maybe most of them will go to Biden, I would expect, as opposed to Sanders. Now, the mitigating factor there is that a number of these states, they have early voting, so a lot of people have already voted. They have been calling the campaign offices or the state election boards, asking if they can take their votes back and change them now that the people they voted for, if they voted for Buttigieg or Klobuchar or Steyer for that matter, any of the candidates who have dropped out, if they can change their votes. Well, they can't. So that could help Sanders. What we want to get to, or what I want to get to, I've said in the past, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm going to vote for Trump in the election. I am hoping for either Sanders to win outright, which seems increasingly unlikely now with this new change in prospects for Biden since the South Carolina primary. It looks more and more like it's going to be a brokered convention, but there is some bad news there potentially. That's what I want to talk about today. I mentioned in the past several vlogs a website called 538, and as I said in those earlier vlogs, 538 looks at past polls and the most recent polls especially, and uses them to run mathematical models, to run tens of thousands of simulations of various outcomes, and then noting which outcome comes out the most. These outcomes that I am going to give you now, they come out in these simulations about 80% of the time, if I'm reading the website right. Now, this is not a prediction, it's just odds. So it could turn out any which way, plus things can change as time goes on. For instance, if Sanders does much better than expected today, Super Tuesday, then these numbers could shift more towards Sanders. But for now, this is what really concerns me. What concerns me is that a number of states where Biden was behind, he is now comfortably ahead. That means a brokered convention, and 538 is saying that that's what the odds are. They are in favor of it becoming a brokered convention. Now, the fly in the ointment is that 538 is now projecting how many delegates, though they will be short of the number needed to secure the nomination on the first ballot, they still have an impact on who will get the nomination, especially if you're Bernie Sanders saying that whoever has the most delegates going into the convention, if it's a brokered convention, that candidate should get the nomination. That argument, and it's Sanders' own argument, if 538's new odds numbers hold up, that's gone. Because according to this, you need about 1,900, I forget the exact number, 1,916, something like that, slightly over 1,900 delegates to win. As 538, the website is projecting right now, let me put the chart up here. They had been projecting before, if you see the chart, if you start from the right, you move, if you start on the right, you move over to the left, that at one point it was showing Sanders having the most delegates going into the convention. But now it shows Biden having the most delegates. That means that Sanders' own argument that the candidate with the most delegates should get the nomination, that means that Sanders cannot dispute Biden getting the nomination just on that basis alone. But look at this number. This is what's important here, or these numbers. You see Biden projected 1,738, Sanders 1,363. So that is a substantial lead for Biden. But you look at these other candidates, Bloomberg 555, Warren 283. Bloomberg, if he cannot get the nomination, which he can't, then where do his votes go? Maybe I would expect them to go to Biden, not Sanders. But look at Warren. That is the one that is really concerning to me, because the odds are that she'll have 283 delegates going into the convention, and she has pledged to stay in the primaries all the way to the convention, even if she loses in her home state of Massachusetts. Obviously, she is vying for the vice presidential slot, and that's what concerns me, because if you look at Warren 283 and Biden 1,738, you put those two numbers together and that's enough. Without super delegates, that is enough to get the nomination for what I would expect to be a Biden-Warren ticket. Biden for president, Warren for vice president, and then the question becomes what happens with the Sanders supporters. I would have said that they would be so disappointed or so against Biden that they would just sit out the election, or out of spite, vote for Trump. I would expect that same thing to happen if by some chance, and I don't expect it to happen with Bloomberg's ego, if Bloomberg were to run with Biden as the vice presidential candidate, that would put Biden well over the required number of delegates to secure the nomination. But Warren is a far left progressive. So if you have a Biden-Warren ticket, might that be enough to get the Sanders supporters to vote for Joe Biden for president because of, number one, Warren's presence on the ticket, and number two, the possibility that she could run for president and be in a much better position to run for president in 2024 after only a single Biden term because of his age. And finally, one more factor for the Trump camp and his supporters to take into consideration, which is, I believe I heard somebody report that Sanders said that if he does not get the nomination, he will support whoever does. I could be remembering wrong, but if it's a Biden-Warren ticket with Warren as the vice presidential nominee, or any other progressive for that matter, which Biden would be smart to do if he wants to have a balanced ticket, I would expect Sanders to endorse Biden. That would certainly help sway his supporters to vote for Biden. Do you see my concern that if you have a Biden-Warren ticket, you have Biden, the so-called moderate, and then you have Warren, the progressive, running together? Could that be enough to win, to defeat Donald Trump? I'll just leave you with that thought. That's it for today. I would be interesting to hear or to read any comments anybody might have. You can put them in the comment section below the video. But before you do that, thumbs up if you like this video, and then you could do your comment in the comment section below the video. You can also put a question in there if you have a question, more than one question if you have more than one question. You can also suggest future topics, and you could subscribe. I love getting new subscribers, so subscribe, and finally come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again, and until I do see all of you again, bye.